Welcome back, Winning Plays Podcast. Rich Levine, Brian, Robb. All right, B-Rob, we have a few places we can start today. We got Tacko Fall is a Cleveland Cavalier. We have Jayson Tatum looking jacked. But here's what we're doing. How desperate, here's the question we're starting with. How desperate does Daryl Morey have to be to potentially trade Ben Simmons to the Celtics?
I mean, I just don't. I think there are better options for him, no matter the circumstances. But my question, when you throw that at me, being like, on what planet are the Celtics very interested in Ben Simmons in the first place? Like, what?
I would be very interested if
Really?
if
Because
I'm
I wouldn't be. You
Listen,
want
when
to pay that
he's
guy
the
$30 million a year to choke every playoffs? Like,
but you don't have to. But it doesn't matter. You don't have to worry about him as much when he's got the Jays with him. I think. Yeah, maybe teams will try to game plan around him a little bit. Maybe you have a Hack Simmons situation. But if you have a situation, okay, the contract is going to be the contract. But if you say, listen, man, don't worry about shooting. Be a first team all defender. Get the ball, lead us on the break, make things happen, get other guys open. We're going to take away all that pressure of you having to be the number one pick with the team that drafted you. We're going to relieve you of some of that stress, of some of those expectations. You go out and you just be you. You play with the Jays, you play with Marcus Smart, and you be you. And that makes me excited if I'm a Celtics fan.
This is true. Like, I mean, if everything lines up like that, you can see the allure. But I just don't. I think the Sixers can probably get a better offer than whatever the Celtics might be willing to put on the table. And B, the timeline here does not work well in the Celtics' favor either, because all the guys you would theoretically offer in a hypothetical Ben Simmons deal just got an extension, so that you can't trade him for a couple months at least. So
Richardson, I mean, Al could be traded.
Al, that's true. You could. That's true. You could do Al and
Philly's dying to run back that experiment. It went so well the first time.
Bring back Al. Just send him Al and Josh Richardson for Ben Simmons.
Al, Josh Richardson, Nesmith, and Peyton, and pick a draft pick. And then you don't like that five if you have Smart, Schroeder, the Jays, and Simmons.
Yeah, I mean, if you can keep Smart in the deal, then I'm more intrigued by that. But I do look at it, and it's funny because you say, how desperate would Daryl Morey be? Like, oh yeah, there's no way the Sixers would deal with the Celtics here. It's easy to forget, 3 or 4 years ago when the Celtics traded for Kyrie, like a year after playing them in the conference finals. So there's obviously different people in charge here. Brad Stevens obviously taking over for Danny, but I mean, I think there's two parties that always be willing to talk, no matter their rivals right now. But I guess if I'm Brad, despite your, painting the picture of, Ben Simmons, if everything goes right in the situation for Boston, him being a third option, it is a fun, thought there. I still think the Celtics should be aiming higher with that for the third star piece. So I'm not willing to think about making a move like this now, which I assume this is a deal that's going to happen, in the next couple months. And I would much rather be of the mind of let's wait and see for obviously Bradley Beal or whatever other options might emerge, rather than using our draft capital and player capital on Simmons and paying him probably more than I'd want to pay him.
Yeah, I just think that if you're talking about Bradley Beal, a guy who does his strengths are Jayson Tatum's strengths, and you probably start to wonder, is there enough ball to go around for all three of those guys? You don't worry about that with Ben Simmons.
No, that's fair.
You don't worry about the star who literally doesn't want it. Take the ball. Don't give me the ball. Let me give it to you.
And I mean, the defense, obviously, there is a case, given his age, there is a case to be made this would be certainly a better situation for him than Philly in terms of it
would be one of the better situations out there,
right?
For him,
but again, that's a situation.
So who are the other teams? What's the other? So you have potentially De'Aaron Fox in Sacramento.
Yeah,
I think that's a pie in the sky. I think that for Morey seems like the best deal he's going to get if potentially he can get it like that. You're not going to get aren't many other players like who else is there? D'Angelo Russell, maybe you're going to get like
Right. I don't think you're getting it. Like, you're definitely not getting Fox. Like, if you're dealing with Sacramento, I think there might be like one of the favorites out there in a few um, books, but you at least can get okay, like Buddy Hield, Harrison Barnes. You can at least get like win now guys that aren't Ben Simmons, but can provide spacing for you, play some defense in the case of Barnes, and maybe make a team that makes more sense if you just can't count on Simmons in the postseason. So they're out there, like I said, the Wolves. They have D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley, some other Jay McDaniels, a couple of like intriguing younger prospects, I guess. And then there's the Golden State wild card in terms of like if they want to package. But if you're Daryl Morey, would you be intrigued with that? Because you're going to take a lottery, you're going to take a bunch of like lottery picks that could turn into something, but also could be nothing, and then you waste a couple more years of Embiid's prime. I'm not sure, like they can put together a deal that makes sense.
right because what you're taking Wiggins, you're taking
Right.
Weissman,
Right, and maybe one of the lottery picks. Is that enough? Like, if I'm Daryl Morey, I'm like, well, that doesn't do anything for me.
Depends what else is out there. Again, that's why I say like how desperate because even if it was the best deal, Daryl might want to think twice about trading to the Celtics. But when you're losing, when it's a losing trade and you're just kind of stuck, because I mean, you can't blame Daryl for going out the way he did and asking, reportedly, we don't know actually what happened, but for asking for the most you could possibly ask for right off the bat, sort of testing the market to see what Simmons is worth to these other teams, but like doesn't appear to be very much as we're like a month away from training camp.
Yeah, it puts the Sixers are in a really tough spot here as a franchise right now because again, with the win now component of this, with the clutch camp essentially, and I want to get your take on this just in terms of like, there's reports of like Tyrese Maxey also being like, who is a Rich Paul client, also like, wanting out as part of the deal, which is just like, okay, like what, like, how does that make any sense for a guy who?
Well, it hasn't even been as much that he wants out as that Rich Paul wants him
right,
out.
Right. So it's like, right, like, okay, that we're gonna acquiesce to your agent here just because you were an emerging point guard here off the bench for us that we could probably use more of in year two. I mean,
I said Rich Paul he's a powerful guy. I think that is the one thing we can say for sure. And if it's a game of having to keep him somewhat happy, like again, yeah, and the sad thing is these players like Nerlens Noel who often are going to get the short end of the stick in these situations, right? Because I think we don't know too much about Maxey, but like he seems like he's in a pretty good spot right now. You're in a big market in a team that's going to be in the playoffs every year. Even last year as a young rookie, you start to establish yourself as a genuine piece of their puzzle. And then if you end up in Sacramento, right, where young careers go to die because Rich Paul is playing hardball, with the organization, that sucks. I mean, and it remains to be seen what will happen. But I don't envy Maxey in that spot.
So if you are the Celtics here and you realistically you're not going to get involved here unless things get super desperate for Philly, they're going to say, hey, we're going to send him out west so we don't have to deal with the aftermath of Ben Simmons. What is the ideal team for him to go to for Simmons? Knowing like what are the players you don't want to see go back to Philly that makes them suddenly a scarier team, Brooklyn, Milwaukee, etc. Like, is it the Sacramento package? Is it, some intriguing guys from Minnesota? Is it like CJ McCollum? Like is that like, will something like that scare you? Like, what's the best case scenario here for the Celtics?
What's the best case scenario for the Sixers? Either way, I know what you're saying. From a Celtics perspective, I would fear the McCollum deal, I think, most. Mm-hmm. Just because he's, I think, the best player of that crew. If I'm the Celtics, I'm happy if they make that Minnesota deal. I mean, D'Angelo Russell, obviously, he's a talented guy. He's an all-star. You can put up numbers. He's like a sort of like a human white flag. I feel like if you acquire him, like you're not making noise for a couple of years. You know what I mean? Just with his contract and all that, I just don't. Yeah, will the Sixers be a playoff team if they have D'Angelo Russell? Yes, because they have Joel Embiid. But when it comes to winning time, I'm feeling okay. And Malik Beasley, obviously an insanely talented guy. Philly would be his third team in not so many years. Has some off the court issues that I don't know. If you're trying to build a winning atmosphere, I don't know, or winning culture, he doesn't seem to be the guy that you're going to bring in right now. So yeah, go for it, Daryl. Go for that T Wolves deal. I think that's what Brad Stevens is rooting for. But I mean, if you go with Sacramento, you get Barnes and Buddy. I mean, those are guys that you could see in a playoff series doing some damage. You've actually seen it from Harrison Barnes, not in the near future, but in the near past. But you know it's happened. He's an established veteran, and you need that, you know, to be a successful playoff team, especially in the East when you talk about the veteran teams that Milwaukee and Brooklyn are going to put out there. And then Buddy just seems like a guy, if he's playing with Embiid and he can find some space, he's one of the dudes that can take over games, which is always a little bit scary.
Yeah, I mean, that's for as far as realistic packages go, that's probably number one on my list too. Just like because for that factor, like Barnes is the guy who just knows how to play, and Buddy Hield's a guy who can win you a game. Like if he gets,
so you don't think that Richardson, Al Horford, and Rob Williams and Aaron Nesmith
will be enough to top that.
No,
I don't think. I think it's intriguing to think about, but I do not think it. You're not going to be able to put that package together by the time. Like Simmons is going to be moved. There's no way they can wait this out if you're the Sixers, right? Like he has to move by maybe not by camp, but like at least early in the regular season here, because if you let this drag on, then who the hell knows what will happen here.
I think every day that even starting from training camp, like and especially with Doc Rivers, and I think a guy that he would talk about the 08 championship, and I think from day one, it was about buying in, but no lost time. I mean, not that they didn't have some problems along the way. Any team does, but from the very beginning, everyone was in. Everyone was part of that team. Everyone knew, okay, for these next 82 games, 100 games, by the end of it, we are together. And it's hard to build again that culture, that winning culture, when you know that is right there. Again, it's hard enough if it's your seventh or eighth player, but if it's your second best player, your third best player, especially just in this day and age, I don't think you can do it and be successful.
Yeah, it's a good point, and Doc, whether it was LA or now coming to Philly, it seems just not the drama follows him around, but he just seems to be in the center of a lot of like volatile locker room situations, and who knows, how much that this situation is because of him. Obviously, the Philly Simmons relationship goes way far back, but now you look at this with what happened with Fultz from a Philly perspective, like it went from a really nice regular season to full on like panic mode here in terms of trying to figure this out. And it's actually cool from the Celtics standpoint because you do have someone, you don't not only have like Al and Richardson who've been down there, but you also have Udoka was down there and saw Simmons firsthand there. So you at least get the perspective there, at least. So I'm sure Brad, like, hey, like, what should we offer for Ben if he's still on the team in 2 months and they're have no one else returning their calls? Like, it'll be funny to see what his perspective would be on that.
And when the games begin, B-Rob, in about a month, about 2 months before the actual games start in the NBA, Jayson Tatum is going to be looking like a monster. Did you see that photo?
I did see these photos, and yes, I need the perspective from you on this, because that, like, you can't really fake that. Like, obviously you can stage photos and stuff like that, but
if you faked it, it's a psychotic move. If you fake that, like I hope that the depths of Tatum's like insecurities and whatever need for clout doesn't go that deep that he's editing his biceps. But my first reaction to seeing that photo is that the Celtics are a top 3 team in the East.
Whoa.
That was just my gut. Who knows? But dude, like if that's what this is about this year, if he's because that's a body that is ready to attack, that is going to get to the foul line upwards of 7, 8, 9, 10 times a game, like we saw in the playoffs at times. That is a body that is made to withstand, and maybe we don't want all 82 games for Tatum. He needs to rest every once in a while, but that's like 75 strong games of putting an NBA team on your back. And to do that and to have those guns and to also have Jaylen Brown right next to you, who is in the same mindset. I don't know, man. It got me excited in a purely basketball sense. It got me excited.
And I mean, it is coming off of playing the Olympics. If I remember correctly, you were, weren't crazy at first about him going to do that, but now he clearly he
I was more worried about his legs than his arms,
right.
I would say.
Arms, yeah.
But he had a lot. He didn't miss any arm days in Japan. That's for sure.
Well, all that down, like I guess they were stuck in their room, or they can only go to the room or work out. And apparently, we know what
like military workouts. Yeah,
exactly. So, yeah, I'd say for a guy that I think he has a few weaknesses left in this game, but one key one is again being able to take contact around the rim and finish through multiple bodies down there. Like obviously that's an area where he's been up and down throughout his career, and so yeah, if this is muscle that could clearly help in that department. And now with, that fresh off a gold medal, fresh off of, a long off season for him from the NBA, for NBA purposes. So to hopefully recharge the batteries, and now fresh team, fresh coach, and it'll be, again, add an extra layer of intrigue. I don't know if I'm going to go top 3 in the East. I'm not going to go that far yet, but I want to see what Jaylen Brown's wrist looked like. But I guess he was even working out in Vegas with the team a few weeks ago. So I guess I would assume that he's going to be very much good to go for training camp if he's already put in some work that early.
Yeah, those were top 10 player biceps. That's what that said. It said, I am ready to be in the top 10 in the NBA if he's not already. But
who else has top 10 like player biceps around? Like who just? I mean, obviously, I think LeBron's an obvious choice in terms of like you look at a wing's upper body, you're like, okay, that guy's just like built like a tank and is not going to get slowed down.
Yeah, well, and because we do have firsthand experience of knowing with Semi Ojeleye that it doesn't always
does not necessarily translate.
Yeah, don't judge a player by his biceps, as the old saying goes. It can create some success, but it's not guaranteed. But yeah, I don't know. It's exciting, and again, maybe he's taken some time off. I know Tatum has been out in California, so maybe he's been able to relax a little bit. But we saw those videos. He was out there scrimmaging with Drew Hanlon's crew. I think Beal was there, and a bunch of other guys. I think Kelly Oubre maybe. But he's out there. He's working. He's grinding, and he seems pretty focused. And again, it's always been if there's ever a question sometimes about Tatum, maybe it's the killer instinct. Maybe it's that fuck you in him that can make him just want to go out there between the lines and destroy his opponent. But physically, he is getting. And again, we see this with superstars. You look at Giannis his first couple of years. You look at him now. You're like, oh, you're right. Like it's a little bit more subtle when you're looking at him all the time. But when you look at the before and after, you're like, okay, after 4 or 5 years in the NBA training program, you are now an NBA player, and Tatum's body's there. So, man, that's exciting. And he knew what he was doing. It was a bit of a thirst trap, maybe, but it was good to see.
Should we have to give a minute for Tacko here?
Yeah, I'm happy for him. I'm happy for the NBA.
It's right. So non-guaranteed deal with the Cleveland Cavaliers. And so I actually looked at their roster to be like, okay, is he actually going to have a legitimate chance to make their roster?
It's like all centers, right?
It's like, yeah, so there is a ton of centers there, but there isn't, like, it's very, like, he's not going to be able to play, but they have, Jared Allen, they have Kevin Love, but there is a spot for, like, a 15th, 14th guy. Like, he has to beat out a couple guys for it, but with a good training camp, I would think, I mean, he also is eligible for a two-way, so maybe he's going to do that, and
right.
And the Cavs obviously will reap the benefits of Tacko chance for the Canton Charge or wherever else he plays.
No, he has value beyond being an NBA player,
No question. But I mean, even that, like, I do think with they at least are going to have the type of defensive player, and Allen, like, yeah, you could see Taco being the third center on that team, and playing in the G League mostly. But if they have injuries or whatever, like, yeah, you get spot minutes here and there, like he was in Boston once in a while. Like, Taco had an okay season. Taco was like not like the roster construction was an issue last year, but it wasn't Taco's fault, and he actually like performed well in a couple games. Like, I always remember the game against the Wizards when half the team was out with COVID. Like, he made a huge impact off the bench in that game. There was no fans in the arena to like cheer him on, which is terrible. But it was, again, a fun memory for beyond just like him being a fan favorite, just a good thing for his career.
Here's the question: do we see? Let's just say that best case scenario, Taco makes this Cleveland team. Do we have the Tacko Fall tribute video when he comes back to the Garden as a member of the Cavs?
Yeah, it's simply the video where Brad Stevens like waves on the crowd to go nuts to bring him in. I mean, there won't be one, but there should be.
They should have Brad should come down from the and actually. I wonder, that's going to be interesting. I wonder where Brad's going to be during the games. Right. Danny kind of sat courtside sometimes when he was allowed to. Baseline by the hoop. Like, is Brad Stevens watching most of these games at home? Is he going to be watching from a suite somewhere, or is he going to? I don't see him being a courtside guy for some reason.
No, I don't either. It's funny because you mentioned that, like in Vegas, Brad Stevens' watching habits during summer league, he usually is up, and you've seen this probably when you've been in Vegas, like usually 10 rows up into the crowd in the coaches, / scouts section. He will watch from courtside, when the Celtics play, but that's when he likes, he likes to, if he's going to observe the game from afar, he kind of does the crowd. I don't know if that's going to fly at the Garden. It's probably going to be tough for him to not get too distracted from the masses. People are going to be able to pick him out of the lineup there. So I would expect, I would expect him to go with that. Maybe not Danny's share, but something closer to the court.
And maybe for the Cleveland game, he can come on and do like an honorary wave, like for Taco. Like they can recreate the moment for the Taco tribute.
Exactly. So we'll see how that works out. What are your thoughts on Rondo?
I love the guy. What can I say? Like, he already went. You won a title with the Lakers. Like, it doesn't, like, how much more can you feel after that? You know what I mean? It's like if someone shoots you then stabs you. Like the stab isn't as bad, right?
Right.
But I'm proud of him. I'm glad, as long as, even if you hate to see him on the Lakers, but with Rondo is in the NBA is a better place. So I'll take some solace in that. I'll miss him. I don't know how long he has before he retires and becomes a Hall of Fame NBA head coach somewhere, but I will enjoy seeing him on the court while I can.
What is he going to even play for them? Do you think, though? Like this, like him going back there is intriguing me. Just their logjam there. It's like, I think it's going to save him for the playoffs, and like in case Westbrook goes nuts or something.
Yeah, and I think that at this point we talk about Tacko having value beyond being on the court. Like, Rondo is an assistant coach. Like, he is a guy who you want on your side. If he's bought in, like if his focus is on helping the Lakers win a championship, I think he's a guy that can help you a lot in a day-to-day. And it's like, and maybe more in some cases. And I don't know if it's more like with a younger player. Of course, you want a guy like Rondo who can, like, be a mentor for the younger guys, but just to support LeBron and AD and Westbrook and keep those guys focused and make their lives a little bit easier, but I think he does a lot of game planning. I think he does a lot of scheming. From what I remember, I think he was like said it in all the Lakers coaching staff meetings when he was there in the bubble. Like, this is a guy who's really focused on, and I'm almost positive he's going to be a head coach when he's done. So I think he can help you that way too. So maybe you're kind of paying for another assistant coach and maybe someone who can jump in, like I suggested the Celtics do with Evan Turner last year. Like, use Evan Turner in a pinch. Maybe Rondo can represent that.
I wonder what Evan's going to be doing now. Do you think
yeah, I know. Like, you feel like he's got to be somewhere around basketball.
You'd think so. I mean, again, that hopefully get an opportunity somewhere else.
Maybe he wants to be the third guy on winning plays.
Hey, the opportunity is there. When all right, final thoughts before we wrap up here. Still no movement at the end of the roster for the Celtics. There's 16 players, only 15 spots. Jabari Parker had some money guaranteed this past week, 100 FL. So there's clearly interest in keeping him on the roster. I think there's also the need for a guy like him at the 4 on the roster, since that's an area where there isn't much depth right now. So you got that. Chris Dunn, Carson Edwards, Bruno Fernando. Who's the odd man out here? What's your, they still have some time to figure this out. They could even go to the camp and just, see what it looks like and make a move. But who's your play there?
I mean, if Chris Dunn is healthy, even if he's not, I'm kind of over the Carson Edwards experience.
Yeah.
I have any ill will towards the guy. Like, I don't want to take away his dream of playing in the NBA. I just would be very okay if for some reason they decide to move on from Carson Edwards. I think he's gotten chances. Has gotten a ton of chances. He's had opportunity, has not. And it just didn't quite work out. Maybe it could still work out somewhere else. Maybe he could go overseas and make a ton of money over the next decade playing basketball. But if the Celtics are in a crunch and he is one of the options, I'm going to go Carson.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Chris Dunn, I mean, maybe I guess if they want to lose some luxury tax money, that's probably the way they'll go, since he is making $5 million. And it is tough to see him getting the rotation if you're playing Pritchard with Schroeder here now too. But yeah, from a pure upside perspective, and Dunn can actually, I think, really help you defensively if he's healthy. And injuries do come up. So, but that'll be a fascinating subplot the next few weeks to see where they go on that front. But I think Jabari probably feels pretty good right now. They gave him the 100,000 safe. I don't think, maybe they'll bring in an extra free agent to veteran guy. I know Ime Udoka talked about that. I'm sure there's a few guys they're kind of waiting on. But those guys probably have offers from elsewhere too. So I would think it'd be probably a tough sell to get them here, as opposed to a place where they might be able to more realistically win a ring next year.
Yeah, don't forget about that $110,000 that they got in the Evan Fournier deal.
That should probably be the guarantee right there.
That's the secret. Yep. Cool. All right.
Well,
good episode.
Great episode. So hit us up at Winning Plays Pod on Twitter, and as always, hit us up at Winning Plays Pod on Twitter, and we will be back with you guys next week.